Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. We're very excited you could all be here today. The Assessor-Recorder's Office is very excited to announce yet again that we've come to the rescue of the city budget. Over the years, we've been able to continue to bring in more money than expected, and this year was no exception. Even given the huge hurricane of appeals, we were able to bring in about $50 million above our projection for the city budget, which will obviously help this year's city budget, but will also help next year's city budget. And behind me are some of the people who will talk about the very importance of what that money will go to. Just to give you a sense of what we're talking about is the $50 million is almost 20% of that $300 million budget deficit that the mayor has been talking about. We've also want you to note that about $24 million of that will go directly to the general fund. And if it were allocated exactly as the general fund was broken up, then it would be about $9.5 million for public safety, $6.5 for human services, $5.2 for health services, and $4.5 for the San Francisco Unified School District. And we're just using these numbers as illustrations if they were exactly broken up into the dollar amounts that the general fund is allocated. What's so exciting is that just by making sure that we do a better job and making sure that everybody pays their fair share, that we're able to make a pretty huge impact on the city budget. And what's critical is I know that when you hear the dollars, it's a little bit hard to comprehend what that means. So I have a few folks here to join me who are really going to be able to explain that in much more detailed fashion. I also want to say that we've been able to bring in this extra money while at the same time dealing with over 12,000 appeals in the last 2 years. And we've at the same time done about 17,000 reductions in property last year, which we are also re-reviewing. So at the same time that we've had to reduce money for some, it shows that even by making people pay their fair share on the downside, we've still been able to bring in $50 extra million. So what we promised the city at the beginning of the year was almost $47 million, and now we're able to bring in just about $97 million this year in what we call supplementals and escapes, and that's just the additional revenue and property tax dollars. So with me are a couple friends. One is Linda Plack from United Educators. She's going to talk. And then we're going to have Guadalupe Juarez from ACE, who's going to talk after that. And then Elizabeth Alexander from SEIU 10-1. And I think what we're hoping is that they can just share with you what some of the real nuts and bolts impacts are of the money that the office brought in on the city.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Linda Plack, and I'm the Executive Vice President of the United Educators of San Francisco. And as Executive Vice President of the United Educators of San Francisco, we represent the teachers and classified staff, the paraprofessionals who work in our early childhood education program and our K-12 program. I have seen the devastation to the schools as the education budgets have been slashed. You are all weary of stories of children without teachers, of classrooms without supplies, of schools dropping programs, and paraprofessionals and teachers being laid off. Although, at this point, 92 teachers and 10 paraprofessionals have been recalled from layoffs just this year, we still have nearly 200 fewer key school personnel with us for next year, and that is our great concern. The difficult work done by our assessor, Phil Ting, and the dedicated men and women who serve in his office have made a dent in the juggernaut that is bearing down on the schools. The $4.5 million that will go to San Francisco Unified School District, thanks to the collection of the nearly $50 million surplus, will poke a hole in the juggernaut of the gathering clouds in the little and shine a little light on the school district. The children of San Francisco, the members of the United Educators of San Francisco, and the school community applaud Phil Ting and his office for the work that they have done in San Francisco. because here we see that San Francisco values are more than just lip service, but are real and mean providing the resources to take care of our children. So this is why we're pleased to be here. We thank Phil Ting for his efforts.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Guadalupe Juárez y soy una madre de la escuela Brehart School. Y soy miembro de ICE.
So my name is Grace Martinez. I'm translating for Guadalupe. She said, good afternoon. My name is Guadalupe Juarez. I am a mother of a child at Bret Hart, and I am a member of ACE.
Me preocupan los cortes al presupuesto que han afectado a las escuelas.
My concern are all the cuts that have affected all our schools.
Necesitamos más fondos para la educación y mejores servicios. Necesitamos trabajo y capacitación para trabajos con buenos salarios.
It's necessary that we find funds for education and to improve services for our families. We need to be able to work and have the capacity to have good working jobs.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Alexander. I'm the Political Action Chair for SEIU Local 1021, and I'm actually also a nonprofit worker here in the city of San Francisco. SEIU 1021 represents your workers, RNs, and other healthcare providers in the community clinics and in General Hospital, Laguna Honda. We represent the classified nutrition workers and the school secretaries and the folks who keep your schools clean. And we also represent many of the nonprofits, especially supportive housing and mental health care. And this is, for us, the third year of straight cuts in a row. We've seen things in San Francisco that we haven't seen before. We see rec programs closed, parks locked up during the day. Basic city services take longer, lines are longer, and because of layoffs and freezing of frontline positions. Workers in both nonprofits and the public sector have given out of their paycheck over and over again to try and help close these deficits. And it's been devastating. Still in the chopping block are family programs, youth violence prevention, AIDS services, and supportive housing. And it's exciting to think that there's other ways of dealing with the budget deficit, not just cuts. There's actually ways, and thanks to Phil Ting's leadership and the hard work of this office, we're able to see that being aggressive in collections of existing revenues is also a way that we can look at the budget. And it's given a lot of hope to our workers. It's given a lot of hope to people who are very concerned and scared in these times of budget. And it proves that the good work and dedication of this office has really brought a lot of hope to workers and to people who rely on these services. And we hope to continue to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you to Guadalupe, and thank you to Linda. I think you heard that the money that we bring is so critical to make sure that classroom sizes can still be maintained, that teachers can stay in classrooms instead of being sent to the streets, that health clinics can continue to be open, and that parents who are really relying on these critical city dollars can really reap some of that benefit. One thing I do want to make sure you all know is going into this next year's budget, which I'm hoping will be approved by the board, is we're asking, we got from the mayor an additional 15 people on a temporary basis to come in and help be a SWAT team to continue to clear out the rest of our backlog. And what we're hoping is that by bringing in this team, that we were able to do an additional $30 million. It's already in the budget, so it's additional from when we first started our budget discussions a few months ago. And by bringing in this team, we're going to hopefully be able to reap significant benefits for the rest of the city. All these numbers are already factored into the budget, so there's no additional money on top of the budget that the mayor released. But again, instead of cutting that $30 million, instead of laying off people, we're able to keep those services whole and to keep going. And I think it's so critical. I just want to echo the sentiments that really the people to be thanked are really all the hardworking staff of this office who are really doing the everyday work and making sure that everyone is paying their fair share. So let me just stop here for a second and just see if we have any questions.
So how is the projection was so off?
It's a great question. This year we went into it with a very conservative number given the fact that we thought the market was really not in a very good place. We also anticipated that we were almost going to spend almost all of our time doing appeals. And part of it is, as we were doing appeals, we looked at what types of revenue we were leaving on the table. So about halfway through, I redirected the office and said, hey, even if it means sort of, pushing off some of the appeals to next year, we're got to make sure that we're bringing in this money for the city budget. And so part of it was a slight redirection of staff this year, and also the fact that there was actually more assessments than we anticipated in that.
And then the other 26 million, 24 will go to the general fund.
The way it goes is just with any city county, when the county brings in money, part of it will go into all the different cities and part of it goes to the state. We obviously are a city county, so we get roughly about 57% of the money and the rest goes to the state. But for example, San Francisco Unified, their money is part of that state pot of money. So even though in theory it's going to the state, it's coming back to the city, just not the city government.
And I don't want to.
No, please.
My last question is just, and so then the cost of the additional workers, the staff. what's that
Yeah, the
about?
cost of the additional workers, my recollection, and I think it's under $1 million. So if you think about it, the city's spending $1 million to go get $30 million. It's a pretty good return. Even Wall Street would take that. Any questions, John?
Phil, you indicated in here that it's $50 million over the budget projections. Is this the projection from the beginning?
The beginning of the year. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the budget process, those projections are updated throughout the course of the year.
Yes.
There's the joint report, there's the 9-month
Yeah.
report. So how much money is there in addition to the projections that there were at those points in the budget process?
I think the 9-month report was, and I have to go back and double check, but I think it was like 55 million. But we can get that. We'll get that number to you directly. Yeah. Yeah. So again, we're very, very happy because part of the reason there's a little bit of lag time is we do the assessments, and then the other side's the one who collects the money. So part of it is making sure that we're constantly syncing up. But again, we're very ecstatic that we could help, cut off about almost 20% of the $300 million deficit to save a lot of jobs. Okay, great. Oh, and the only thing I was going to say is, the appeals one or this one? Okay. Oh yeah. So the only thing I would just hold out is obviously, we've worked about 12,000 appeals this year, but we did hand out a chart of all the appeals that are still remaining. I think we still have about 6,000 appeals that are still left, and obviously that's going to require a lot of time. The reason why this is important to note is that if we don't challenge the appeals, then the city would automatically lose all that money, and it's tens of hundreds of millions, potentially millions of dollars of tax revenue that we could be losing. So we always make sure that we are constantly looking at that and making sure that everybody is paying their fair share to make sure that that assessment is accurate. So we still have about 6,000 appeals left right now. We have 2 years to work the appeals. So it's going to be a mix of, I think we obviously anticipate getting most of those done this year, but there'll still be some left over for next year because we have 2 years to work that. Great. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being here too.